afternoon, or morning, or evening, or whenever you're watching this. It's been 2 weeks since my last video, and I am here to... Whoa, there go my notes. Falling over. I'm here to kind of talk some more about my crafts and what I've been doing. It's been a really productive 2 weeks, although I've really been focusing only on a few projects. It's kind of funny, if you're into the cross-stitching world at all, you've probably heard about it being Stitch Mania, which is, it's a Facebook group. I'm not on Facebook, so I'm not on the group, but I hear everyone talking about it, so I know about it. Basically, it's like kind of a mania challenge thing. The original idea was like to start 15 new cross-stitch projects in the first 15 days of May, but I see a lot of people doing like a new project every day, or some people are doing like a new project every week or whatever. And so I, vaguely, briefly kind of thought about doing something with that, but I ended up deciding that that's just not really what I'm interested in right now. So I'm kind of doing like the opposite of Stitch Mania, because I'm not starting hardly anything new. It's all like continuing and finishing old projects. So it's just been kind of funny to watch everyone's videos now, and everyone's talking, well, all the cross-stitch people, I watch a lot of knitting people too, who aren't doing Stitch Mania because it's a cross-stitch thing. But anyway, it's just kind of funny to watch everyone's video because they're all talking about like starting new stuff, and I'm all like, and I'm just gonna keep working on this old stuff. But I have 2 finishes to show you, and then a lot of progress on a couple of works in progress, and some kind of haul stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into kind of my most recent finish that I literally finished probably 10-15 minutes before I started filming this. This is, okay, color-wise, it's a little bit duller than it looks like it's going to be on camera, but it, other than that, it's pretty accurate. So this is the cowl that I was knitting. The pattern is the Winter Berries Cowl by Michelle C. Meadows, and I knit it out of a yarn. It's a discontinued yarn. It's called Naturally Karen Spa. The colorway is Ocean Spray. And it's a DK weight, 75% acrylic, 25% bamboo. So it's really like drapey and silky feeling, and it feels really nice. So this is this. The original pattern has you knit it straight and then seam it together, and I decided to use a provisional cast on and graft it together, and I'm trying to find the seam because I didn't want there to be an obvious seam. And it's slightly noticeable if you know what you're looking for, and I'm trying to find it and failing, so obviously my goal of having it be kind of hidden was reasonably... No, that's not it. Ah, here it is. Okay. So you can barely see if you look at it, because here's one end and here's the other end, and then there's this spot right along here where... Oh, that's more accurate to the color now that I'm all red. Anyway, where it's just a little bit longer, and when you stretch this out, you can kind of see that it doesn't, like here, it doesn't 100% line up. And that's because I was grafting the cast on end to the knitted end, and they're, just because of the way knitting is, it's basically half a stitch off, so I had to kind of compensate for that. It was not an easy Kitchener grafting, but I felt that it would be a lot more invisible than it would have been to bind, like to just do a normal cast on and bind off and then seam it, because when you do that, you get this little ridge on the inside that's kind of about, probably a little bit smaller than that, but it's kind of that idea. And since part of the reason I liked this shawl was because the cowl, was because I liked how the inside and outside looked together when you wore it. I didn't want to do anything that would have like a seam on the inside. So it's a really long cowl, but it's supposed to be worn doubled up, kind of. I'm not like a cowl person, so I'm not like the best at showing you how it's like supposed to be worn and all that, but it's basically supposed to be like a doubled up, and you can kind of see like a little bit of the inside and the outside, and it kind of, crisscrosses and goes together, and I really like it. Like that. And it's very soft because it's got the bamboo in there. Because it is the bamboo acrylic, it's not like super warm. It's not as warm as like a wool cowl would be, but it's really good for like you know, kind of spring or fall when you're, you know, you don't want to be like super warm, but it might be a little bit cold when you go outside or something. So good timing on getting it done and everything. The other struggle that I had with it was that it's a very slippery yarn. So when you weave in the ends, they tend to like work their way back out, and I'm like super paranoid about that. So it took me quite a while to weave in the ends and to like knot them and then weave some more and then knot again and then weave some more and then snip them off, so that way they were like not going anywhere. So there's that. I quite like that. Although, like I said, I'm not really a cowl person. I'm actually planning on selling this rather than keeping it. But yeah, I do need to wash it one more time just to make sure when you wash it that the ends of the yarn that I wove in don't like pop back out, because if they do, I'll want to like snip them off again beforehand. So that's that. That actually took me just under 3 months to knit, and it was not, like I would go in spurts of whether I was working on it or not, so I could have done it a lot faster if I'd wanted to. Then the other thing that I finished isn't really a finish per se. If you've been watching my stuff, you know that I'm working on the Round in Circles Hardhanger Stitch Along. It's on the Mabel Figworthy site. It's basically a year-long stitch along that kind of gradually introduces you to stitching hardhanger, which is a cut and pulled thread work. So this was January, February, March, and then the designer had some family issues, so she wasn't able to get April out until like the very last day of April. So I did April, which is here, and it's got these little, these are colonial knots, and some square stitching around it, and then this butterfly stitch. These are some woven bars and a spider web filling stitch. And she was saying that these three, like this is one weaving and one filling stitch, and this is another weaving and another filling stitch, and this is like the third main weaving and filling stitch. So she was saying once you've done all three of these, you can pretty much do most hardhanger pieces, because those are the types of stitches they're going to need. So that was cool, and I want to see what she does next month, because obviously that's supposed to be a little bit more advanced. Oh, and I'm doing this on a 22 count white hardhanger cloth from, is it Zweigart that's got the orange stripe in the selvage? It's either Zweigart or Witchell. I think it's Zweigart, so whichever one it is. And then I'm using size 5 and 8 DMC pearl cotton in white, and then Petite Treasure braid in silver for my accents. And I really debated where to put the silver on this month, because I was considering doing, instead of, what I ended up doing was I did the silver spider webs, and then on this section I did the like colonial knots, and I did a silver outline around them. And I was debating doing that versus putting a bead in place of the knot and doing a white outline around it, like a silver bead. Let me show you some of my beads. So I've got these silver beads here. They're just a Mill Hill silver. And ultimately I decided not to, because I've not done the colonial knots before. I've done French knots before, and I wanted to see how the colonial knots work. Honestly, I think the French knots are easier and more consistent for me. So I think that in hindsight, I probably would have preferred it with the beads in place of the knots, because I think that would have looked more like I was wanting. But it was definitely interesting, and part of my goal in stitching this is to learn new stitches. So I was like, yeah, colonial knot, that'll be cool. And then the other thing that was interesting about this was this is the first time I've had to put like thick stitches under my Q-snap. So this is the child of a 17 by 17 and an 8 by 8 Q-snap. And so obviously I don't have the snap over this, but this is just some, it's not felt, but it's a kind of like a thick cloth. And so I put that to protect the stitches and the clamp over it. And I tried not to clamp it for too long, but I actually forgot and left it clamped for like 4 or 5 days before I took the clamp off. But you can actually see, like, it did not damage these stitches at all. When I first pulled it off, I noticed the most kind of like potential damage was kind of like right where the edge of the clip was hitting, so right along here, rather than the middle of the clip. But I really haven't seen any damage from it, which is cool because I've not yet put like a lot of stitching under a Q-snap to see how it does, although my impression was that it didn't damage the stitching. So obviously that is awesome. I'm not going to put like my beads under the Q-snap if I can help it, but gotta do what you gotta do. So, like I said, I worked on this, and so I consider this a little finish, a monthly finish. And I've done my first row of 4, so I'm going to move down and do the next 4 and then the last 4. I don't know when the May, I had to check what month this was up on my calendar. I don't know when the May pattern is going to come out, because like I said, the designer has been having some, dropping stuff. The designer's been having some personal stuff, but she's been really good at keeping, you know, just letting us know what's going on. So I imagine that sometime in the not too distant future we'll get at least an update on when to expect the update. So that was what I had finished. Then I only worked on 3 things in this past 2 weeks, which is a little bit unusual for me because I tend to be the type of person that likes to switch between more things, but I kind of really got on a roll with these. So, well, and obviously the 2 things that I finished in this past 2 weeks, I obviously worked on them, which is 5 things, which is more reasonable for me. So, I also worked a lot on my oldest cross-stitch project. This is the Morning Flight pattern. Let me make sure that I can see what's going on here. It's a Dimensions kit. And I think I got it and started it like 12 or 14 years ago. And then I stopped and I restarted it much more recently, but still, it's definitely my oldest. And so last time you saw it, I had finished this quarter of it with the tree branches and the back stitching on them. And then this time I moved over from this top quarter to this top quarter, and I started on this edge. Sorry about all the threads. I'm in the middle of it. Like, I've got leftover threads from here and threads from here. It's just a little bit crazy right now. So I started working in these columns, and I just worked down per column and filled them in. They were partially filled in because I had started doing like working cross country by color, and I ended up deciding to do more. It's not really parking what I'm doing with this. It's kind of a mix of the two. But anyway, so as you can see, I did these and I backstitched this side of the tree. Basically, my plan is to keep going down in columns, and as soon as I filled in like all of the columns that touch a certain area of backstitching, I'll just go ahead and do the backstitching. So like right now, I need to do a line of white backstitching down this edge of this tree. I'm also pulling out the gridding threads that I used. Now this was my first time gridding, so I didn't really think too much about how I was doing it. And I gridded with just black, what am I trying to say? Just black sewing thread, just plain black sewing thread. So the unfortunate thing about that is that when I wasn't like super careful as I was stitching, I did actually like pierce the black thread. So there's actually probably a couple of spots in here where I haven't been able to get the black thread out. They don't seem too visible, but when I get done with the whole piece, I'm definitely going to need to go over that with a fine-tooth comb and make sure there's not any like weird black bits hanging around. But as you can see, like, so this was a pretty substantial amount of progress. That was 2, 4, 6, 10. That was about 300 stitches, and I would estimate that like maybe 100 of them were already done, so I probably did about 200 stitches and the back stitching. Seems really low. No, I lied. This is 3,000 stitches, of which probably about 1,000 were done. So I did about 2,000 stitches in 2 weeks, which is not bad. I know this because it's a column of 10, and I did 3 columns, so, and each thing is a 10 by 10, so 1,000 stitches per column. So anyway, I'm gonna just keep working on that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna switch to something different, but I really kind of just want to keep working on this. I kind of want to switch it up because I have other projects that I really like, and I don't want to just be like, always one project, ignore everything else. But at the same time, that's one of the projects where I've sometimes had trouble being interested in working on it. So I'm like, maybe I should really stick with it. As long as I'm interested in it, just keep sticking with it. So I don't know. We shall see. But I'm very pleased in the progress that I've made with that one, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting done with it because, as I said, it is my oldest. Okay, then the next thing that I worked on, man, my nose is itchy today. Now, I had shown you last time, I think just this little rose. This is, I'm doing this based on a pattern called the Irish Filigree Necklace by Annie Potter. It's basically just an Irish crochet, and you do these like flowers and you make this little necklace thing. But I didn't want to make a necklace out of it. I wanted to basically stitch them to like a white or cream muslin type background and then frame them. So I had gotten this little frame previously. I pulled out the paper so I could start like visualizing how things were going to work. And since the last time you saw it, I think I did both of these since the last time you saw it. I also did a little like leaf for the rose and a little like leaves and rosebud segment. So right now, let me kind of briefly arrange what we've got going on right now. So right now we've got something that's kind of like this, and there's going to be like some violets that kind of make a little like sweep. So you've got a bit of a curve to it. And this, oh, I should say, I'm doing this with a silk that I picked up. I don't know much about it. I wasn't able to find it on Ravelry. It's called Aurora silk. It's like 100% silk and it's hand dyed, but I don't think that it, like, I don't know that it's around anymore. I don't know if it was like tiny and local or something. So I don't know a lot about it. It's also like super coming out of the cake that I had it in, so it's a real mess. But I'm kind of debating what to do with this project because I can tell that I'm not going to use up all of this yarn. I can definitely tell I'm not going to use it all up. And I'm not sure whether I want to just do the little bit for the smaller frame that I've got right now and then like do something else with the remaining yarn, or if I want to go and get like a bigger, like maybe an oval frame like about this big, and do like make some more flowers. So I was thinking about possibly like making another rose this size and then another rose that's a bit bigger, just kind of extrapolating the pattern and having like a little cluster of 3 roses, and maybe making like another one of this stem, but instead of having 3 leaves, like put on some more leaves and have like a 5-leaf stem. And so I was thinking about possibly doing that and just making like a bigger, swoopy arrangement. But I haven't decided yet. I'm definitely, I think, going to go ahead and finish the flowers that are supposed to go in this smaller one and put it all together on this size and decide whether I want to stick with this or whether I want to switch to something bigger. I don't know. I haven't fully decided. But I made some progress on that. And the pattern, I mean, I'm not like a huge crocheter. Oh, and I'm doing this with this size 5 steel hook. So it's an itty bitty teeny tiny little hook. Crochet is not my favorite. I'm not like the best at it. And it's a tiny hook and tiny yarn, which I'm not as used to, definitely not as used to crocheting. So it's been kind of interesting, and also there was like a typo in the pattern, and so, and it's not formatted the way I would prefer it to be formatted, so it's been kind of interesting working on that. I've not touched that for a while because I got really frustrated with the pattern for those 2 little branches. I think the violets are going to be a lot easier because going around in a circle was a lot easier than figuring out the order that they wanted you to like up and around and then down and then around, and then anyway. So there's that one. I need to finish that one. Like I said, I think I'm going to do the violets and then assess whether I want to try to extrapolate to a bigger one or what I want to do with that. So anyway, that's my progress on that sucker. And then I started, finished, and then had to like go back and fix part of that. Still in the middle of fixing a project since the last time I videoed. This is the Beware of Dragons hat by Holly Marie. So you can see it's little colorwork dragon. She's also got colorwork on the top that I did not do. So this yarn, this cream colored yarn, is just an I don't know what it is. I've had it in my stash since forever. I'm trying to use up some of my oldest stash. It's a DK weight. Burn test and bleach test suggest that it's an acrylic wool blend, and I can tell. I did like a felting test on it because I suspected it was not superwash, and it does seem to felt like pretty readily. So it's definitely like a hand wash only, and I don't know the exact fiber content, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. So I offered to make a hat out of it for a friend of mine because she has not even like a huge head, but kind of on the larger side, and she was having trouble finding a hat that fit, and she was okay with an unknown fiber hand wash yarn. So I did that, and then for my green, oh, I don't have it with me, I had some leftover Knit Picks palette yarn in the colorway Grass. It's a fingering weight, 100% wool yarn. So I just held that double to make it about a DK weight to do my little dragons breathing their acid. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, at least in the 3rd edition, I don't know if it's still true in the later editions, green dragons breathe acid, so which is usually depicted as being green. So it's very appropriate that the green dragon has got green droplets coming out of his mouth. So anyway, I started this, and I knit this with US size 7 needles, which I wrote down is 4.5 millimeters for those of you on the millimeter scale. And the pattern had said, if you want to, you can use a smaller size needle for the ribbing, and I was like, yeah, you know, whatever, I'll just do this. Oh, before I get too far into this story of how I had to cut off my ribbing and restart, the pattern called for worsted weight yarn, and I was using DK weight yarn, so, and especially because I knew I needed to make it a little bit on the big side for my friend, I knit a gauge swatch, and it turns out that if I just put in one extra repeat of the dragon, so I have, I think, 7 dragons instead of the 6 that the pattern had, then everything works fine with my gauge. So, where was I? Oh yeah, I did everything on the size 7 circulars, and when I tried it on, the ribbing at the bottom was just way too loose. Like, I would put it on my head. Our heads are about the same size. Mine is like a tiny bit smaller than hers. I'm going to try not to mess up my hair. So I would put it on my head, and like this would have a little bit of stretch, and the ribbing would be like doink way out here. And I was like, that's not going to work. That's just, I could tell just shaking my head that it was going to come off kind of a thing. So I decided to do a little hat surgery and re-knit the ribbing on a smaller needles. But I didn't want to, like, I obviously, you knit from the bottom up to the top, so I obviously didn't want to like take out all of this and start again. So what I ended up doing was it was like the ribbing and then this stockinette section. So I picked up all the stitches of the stockinette on my smaller size 5 needles. These are Addi Turbos, which I got for like $2 because someone at the thrift store didn't know what Addi Turbos cost. I was like, yes. Anyway, so I picked up all of the stitches here, and then I snipped a thread in the ribbing section, which was a little bit nerve-wracking to make sure I snipped the right one, and picked it out. And so I ended up with like the ribbing in one hand and the hat in the other hand, and then I unraveled that ribbing and used that yarn to knit this on the size 5 needles, which is 2 sizes smaller than the hat, and seems to be knitting very nicely. And the other good thing about this is I'd wanted to make the ribbing really long because the friend that I'm knitting this for says that she likes to have really long ribbing so that she can put it over her ears because her ears get cold. And this pattern only called for like this much ribbing or something. Like, it was really not a lot of ribbing. So I wanted to do more, but I started to worry that I was going to run out of yarn before I did the whole hat, especially because I wasn't going to do the color work on top. So I stopped the ribbing earlier than I really wanted to, and then I got done and I had all this left over, so I was like, okay, this time I'm going to go around and knit straight down and just keep going down until, well, until either I run out or it's ridiculously long and I need to stop, however that works out. If there's any left over, this is going to be cat toys for her cat as well as the hat. Or if there's not, then, you know, poor cat. So that is the Beware of Dragons hat, which I totally finished in 2 weeks and then had to redo the ribbing on. So not quite finished yet, but it's going pretty quickly. So that is pretty much, yeah, that is everything that I've worked on. I am going to show a little bit of a haul. So if you're just interested in what I worked on and you're not interested in what I bought, this would be the time to leave, and I appreciate you watching. And if you are interested in what I bought, then here we go. So the first thing I have to show you is old. I bought it back in March. And I kept meaning to show you this because it's yarn. I bought this yarn in March. I kept meaning to show you this yarn, and it got to the point where I was like, it's May, maybe I don't need to see it, don't need to show it, but then I was told by the same friend that I'm knitting the hat for, who also watches this, that since she hadn't seen the yarn yet, I needed to show it anyway. So this is my old yarn. I bought this during a sock yarn sale, and I'll tell you about the shop later, but this is very pretty. It seems to be a little bit more, you're seeing a little bit more contrast than there is in real life on the camera. So in real life, it's not quite that big of a difference between the light and the darks, but it's still pretty close. This is the Malabrigo sock yarn, which is a light fingering merino, superwash merino, which is hand-dyed, kettle-dyed. It's gorgeous, it's super soft. The first time that I ordered yarn that was not like 100% acrylic, Red Heart Super Saver, one of the yarns that I ordered was a skein of Malabrigo. And so Malabrigo is kind of my first ever really soft, snuggly merino yarn. So I have like a little bit of a sentimental attachment to the Malabrigo brand, as well as the fact that it's just soft and it's gorgeous. Yeah, and the color, and my camera decided to cut me off. The colorway is Aguas. I'm planning on knitting socks with this. I've got some black yarn that I'm going to do for the toe and the heels because this doesn't have nylon in it, so it's not as strong. The second sock yarn that I bought, it was like a mystery package. You bought the package and you knew it was going to be sock related, but you didn't know what it was going to be. So this is not a color I would have picked for myself. This is an Opal Fan und Elfen. I believe it's German. My German pronunciation is not awesome. The colorway is 5520. But, like I said, it's not what I would have picked for myself, but I actually do like it pretty well. So this will obviously be socks at some point as well. And I'm glad that I got this because I didn't know what it was going to be, and I've been wanting to try Opal, but Opal has so many colors and so many, like, lines. Like, this is the Fan und Elfen line. And I was like, always like, I don't know where to start. So this took that decision out of my hands, which was awesome. So now I've got that. I bought both of these in, there's a yarn shop called Dizzy Sheep. I think it's just dizzysheep.com. I really like them because they don't have the greatest selection, but they've got really good prices, and they've got free shipping on any order if you're in the States. So it's really nice if you need like one skein of yarn to make a pair of gloves or something. That's how I found them, was I was looking for one skein of yarn to make a pair of gloves. And they're like super friendly and super fast shipping, and I like them. But anyway, were having like a March Sock Madness sale, so I got these two in that sale. And then I think I said when I was showing the shawl that I knit for a friend that I wanted to get some blocking wires, and I did. These are ridiculously long. These are the Knit Picks blocking wires. I didn't get them from Knit Picks, I got them from Amazon because they recently started having their stuff on Amazon, and it was like free shipping with Prime, which for something this large is a pretty good deal. So I went ahead and bought that. It comes with the wires and some T-pins. Not very many T-pins. Not enough really for like a shawl. But basically, instead of using pins to pin out your knitting when it's wet, you run the wire along the edge of the knitting, and that way you can like take 3 or 4 pins and pin out the whole wire instead of like 20 pins to pin out the whole, you know, each little bit. So you get straighter lines, and it's a lot easier, it's a lot faster. I used it when I first washed the cowl. Like I didn't expect it to really hold a block the way a wool yarn would, but I was like, at least I wanted to like stretch out the lace and make sure that all of my stitches were even, so I used those blocking wires, which I really liked. I do make sure that you pay attention to their instructions if you get it, because they tell you to like wipe off the wires before you use them, and there is definitely, it took me like 3 rounds of wiping to get all of the oil from the manufacturing off of the wires, and you definitely don't want that like weird black oil on your knitting. So pay attention to their instructions, be sure you wipe them down before you use them. But I got the Knit Picks ones because I was looking at a couple different sets, and they had like the most length, like theirs were longer than the other ones that I was looking at, and they had more wires in the set for about the same price. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get the longer, more wire one. So I got that. I'm very happy with that. I'm going to be even more excited when I knit like a big shawl or something and I get to use those. Looking forward to that. And then the other thing that I bought, speaking of big shawls, there's a shawl that I've been meaning to knit for a while, and I needed new needles for it. So I just picked me up another, these are the ChiaoGoo, I think is how you pronounce it, red lace knitting needles. I didn't have a size 3 that had a long enough cord for this shawl, so I bought these. I like them because, well, I've used them for a while. One thing I really like about them is the fact that this cord has no memory, so even though it's been stored like coiled up like that for a really long time, it doesn't like hold the coils. It's totally straight. And they're nice and fairly sharp, which makes it nice to do lace because it's easy to like stick them into like complicated stitches. I usually hear these compared to the Hiya Sharps, which I've never tried. I've never tried any of the Hiyas. But I found when I've priced them that the ChiaoGoo I can usually get just a little bit cheaper than the Hiyas, and since I know that I like them, I was like, whatever. I think they usually run in like the $8 to $12 range. I think they're like manufacturer suggested price is closer to the $12 end, but I can usually get them for like $9-ish on eBay, which is what I did with this. I ended up buying from a place called Handsome Fibers. I've never bought from Handsome Fibers before, but I would totally buy from them again. They were just on eBay. I just looked for ChiaoGoo size 3, 40-inch, and there's a bunch of sellers. Just look for whoever's cheapest. So anyway, that was that. I have this lace shawl. I'm kind of trying to work through my old yarn from the oldest to the newest, and so I've got like a couple more projects to do before I get to this one, but this is a shawl that I've been wanting to do. Something popped up on my screen. Okay, this is a shawl that I've been wanting to do since like forever, so having these ready to go is awesome, and it makes me want to work on my other old projects so I can get to this shawl. So I don't know if I'll actually be done with, I don't know if I'm going to start it for before my next video or not, but we shall see. Anyway, that's what I had to show you. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I would love to answer them either in the comments or in my next video. Yeah, let me know if you, like I said, questions, suggestions for future videos, all that stuff. I will talk to you shortly in the future, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.